Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is NGS and thank you so much for clicking on the video. So what I wanted to do today is weigh in on the recent Ghost in the Shell controversy. Now, for those of you guys who are unaware or just flat out don't care, a couple of years ago, Hollywood secured the rights to produce a live action film based on Ghost in the Shell. And we also learned that they had cast Scarlett Johansson in the lead role of the Major. Now, for those of you guys out there who have seen Ghost in the Shell, you might view that casting choice as rather strange, to say the least. But fret not, in true internet fashion, we are here to back you up with healthy discussion. And by healthy discussion, I mean blind outrage. You have tons of people out there who are for this movie and tons of people out there who are against this movie. You have the folks out there who are saying that this is whitewashing and another example of the evil, racist Hollywood system who is stacking the deck against minorities. Likewise, you have folks out there who do not understand why these guys are up in a hissy fit and they're just nothing but whiny SJWs. So what I want to attempt to do in this video is look at this entire situation from a neutral perspective as a dude who wants to look at the facts and what is there and what can be proven on why this situation is what it is. I think I can add to this discussion in a way that isn't so wrapped up with emotions and wanting to believe something that doesn't necessarily exist. Especially considering that I don't have a dog in this fight because I don't care about Ghost in the Shell whatsoever. I know I triggered at least 15 people, one of them being Billy, so I'm going to hear hell about that in the WhatsApp chat tomorrow morning. Now, before we get into Scarlett Johansson's casting, I want to preface this video as such, since I know the way the internet works. Please watch the video before commenting. If you're one of those individuals who likes to skim through the video to see what this dude has to say, you're going to be out of luck. You're going to find two things. One, a statement that is completely out of context, and two, random derpy faces, because I'm known for that. Heck, I have an entire hashtag called NeoMemes dedicated to that. First and foremost, I want to address the individuals, both camps, with a simple statement. I do not agree with the casting of Scarlett Johansson or any non-Asian actor in the role of the Major. That being said, I think both sides are completely wrong. Now, even though both sides are wrong, I think there is definitely, they both make good points. It's just that they're for the wrong reasons. So first and foremost, I want to address the individuals out there who view this casting as racist, right? You hear this time and time again. Whenever someone sees that there aren't enough minorities in certain movies, there aren't enough lead actors who are Asian in romantic comedies, whenever they don't cast a black person in this role, people like to deem it as racist. Now, there is an interesting argument that could be made when you look at the amount of roles that are given to white actors a la Ryan Reynolds as opposed to certain other actors. You can make a good argument, especially with black people. The amount of black actors who are cast in movies that are not stereotypes, like Medea films, that are not gangster thugs, with Asian actors that aren't the generic kung fu guy or evil crime boss, it sounds like a pretty good argument. However, where it kind of starts to fall flat is that this entire argument becomes predicated on the fact that Hollywood as a whole is racist. That is the fault of this institutional system. Guys, I want to make something clear. By simply saying that the reason why these things are happening is because of this racist system, we're not adding anything to this discussion. We're not moving this discussion forward in any way, shape, or form. It almost becomes a cop-out. Like, oh, this person isn't in this movie. There aren't enough Asians in this movie. It must be because Hollywood's racist, right? What are your grounds on that? Because it's easy to say that, oh, it's racist because of the system. But what are we doing to fix this? In order to fix the problem, we have to address it and figure out why it's happening. Unless we can provably point out people in the industry who are indeed racist and passing off on actors of any kind of ethnicity, be it white, be it black, be it Asian, be it Hispanic, we're not doing anything. All we're doing is chasing the boogeyman. Heck, not even chasing the boogeyman. We're chasing his dog at this point. He's probably out on 14th Street or something. But unless we can do that, we can't fight this. Hollywood is going to keep doing what they're doing over and over again. Maybe there's more to this argument and it isn't as black and white as people make it out to be. Maybe there's something non-racist as to why these things are happening. But more on that later. To the people out there who are for this movie, for the sole reason that, well, it doesn't matter if they cast a white person in the role, because anime characters are basically white. I mean, you look at their facial features, their big eyes that have multiple colors, and their Yu-Gi-Moto style hair of red, purple, yellow, black. Please stop. Please stop while you think you're ahead. Please. Now let's move into the casting of Scarlett Johansson. Okay? Why in the world would I be against that casting of Scarlett Johansson? Okay? Yet say that Hollywood is possibly not racist. It doesn't make sense, right? Because if you look at the history of Hollywood, you've seen roles that have been whitewashed. You've seen roles that are played by Asian characters played by white guys. Right? But why am I against this casting choice? I'm against this casting choice not because it is whitewashing, but because the source material does not permit this. This is something I think a lot of people need to understand when they're doing adaptations, okay? More often than not, the arguments that we use for why certain characters can play certain roles, it does not work if the source material does not deem it as such, okay? A common argument here every now and then is that it doesn't matter what ethnicity an actor is. It comes down to who can play the role. Again, like the system argument, it makes sense on paper. But if there's something else that restricts that, that is when we have a problem. Ghost in the Shell is a prime example. Ghost in the Shell is made with a very Eastern mindset. And by Eastern mindset, I meant it's really rooted in Japanese culture, Japanese politics. It's a very intense show from that perspective. And by casting a white lady in that role, it makes no sense because it was made with that mindset. And by changing things to the point where they do not resemble what they're geared towards, you are not adapting. You are simply taking the name of a popular franchise and hoping it would sell. The point of adapting, which a lot of people do not understand, is to take the heart, the soul, and the spirit of something, translate it into another medium. Of course, there are going to be differences, but that does not give you free reign to go balls to the wall crazy and do things that do not resemble the spirit of it. Take Captain America Civil War, right? It's very different from the Civil War comic, but it still has the heart and the soul of what made that story interesting. The Superhero Registration Act. Liberty and freedom versus authoritarianism, right? They're different, but the stories still have the same meaning. And since the Civil War comics suck, the movie automatically is going to be better, but that's besides the point. Ghost in the Shell, the heart and the soul of that story is rooted in Japan. The heart and the soul, everything from politics to what have you, is rooted in Japan. So you need to have those people to accurately reflect those stories. And vice versa. If a movie is heavily rooted in American culture and American politics and stuff like that, you cannot adapt that with any other type of ethnicity. Like, you can't change that story and bring that story to somewhere like Germany or India or stuff like that. It needs to be set there. That's what a lot of people do not understand. The source material is what makes it key and why you can't just simply change the race of a character. Y'all know me, I'm not for changing the race of any characters or gender bending or any of that stuff. I'm not for it if there is an instance where I think it's okay, is if the character's race doesn't make a big deal. Like, for example, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Heimdall, played by my Uncle Idris Elba. He is black in that movie. Now, does that make a big deal? No, it doesn't, because he still is the character. But if a white actor was playing Heimdall, it wouldn't have made a difference. Which is what I think a lot of people need to understand. Just because this white actor is playing this white character, that doesn't mean that you need to get upset It doesn't. Why? Because they're sticking to the story. Are there some instances where races can be swapped? Sure. Are there some instances where they can't? Sure. But most importantly, do not bring your personal politics into this, because you think that, oh, we need a black actor to play this, or an Asian character to play this, or a female to play this. Don't. Because these stories worked so well without that garbage. Take your quotas somewhere else. Don't sit here and say that, oh man, we need Peter Parker to be black in these movies now because we need to see what a black actor will bring to this role. Implying that any other ethnicity, like a white person, because that's what people are basically saying. Implying that you can't just have a regular white guy. Implying that your experience is going to be hampered by the fact that a white actor is playing a white character. Again, please, context with everything. Just because they're sticking to the source material does not mean that it's racist. Likewise, just because you want them to stick to the source material because the story is deeply rooted in the source material does not mean people are complaining about whitewashing. Okay? You guys got to understand these sort of things. Now, in regards to Scarlett Johansson and why this is happening, do I think it's racist? To be honest, no. I don't think it's racist. Why? Because I think it's the fault of the team behind it. And something that I think is worthy of more discussion than simply throwing over the blanket institutional racism thing. What I mean by that is the way Hollywood approaches actors and their marketability. Okay? Now, in the case of Scarlett Johansson, why would Scarlett Johansson be chosen for this story as opposed to, let's say, an Asian actress? First and foremost, what you guys need to understand when it comes to Hollywood is that they give jack shit about the source material. They don't care about staying close to it. Why? Because 99% of them want to make money. Marvel is one of the few examples, if not the only examples, that actually takes things into account when adapting these stories. Most of the other studios, they don't care. Look at Transformers. Look at Ninja Turtles. Anything they can do to sell the movie, if it means having Megan Fox, they'll do it. Scarlett Johansson, she's a bankable actress. Lucy made a crap ton of money. She's huge. That is why they want her in this film. They could care less about casting unknown folks in this movie. They want it to be a guaranteed moneymaker. And that's the way the world works. That's why they're doing this sort of thing. It's not because they're racist. It's because they're greedy. It's because they don't know any better. They're lazy. That's it. If you want to convict Hollywood of something, they're lazy. Okay? I know a lot of people want to bring up the fact that, well, they have to take risks on these things. They have to bring these actors in because that's how you become a household name. Like, look at Star Wars The Force Awakens. They had John Boyega and Daisy Ridley, two unknown actors. Nobody really knew them outside that movie. Star Wars is one of the few tentpole series that exist that can do that sort of thing. Like, there aren't really a lot of franchises that do that. Let's be honest here. Even when they do, they have big name actors to basically make up for it. Like, they'd cast a big name actor as a villain or a supporting role. Okay? So you guys kind of have to look at it from that perspective. They're looking at what's marketable. And to be honest, it's kind of a sound argument. Not looking at it from a race thing, looking at it from marketability. They would rather have something that's a guaranteed sell. Not saying it's guaranteed, but a guaranteed sell in their eyes than sticking close to the source material. Another thing you guys have to understand about this is that this movie, the biggest problem facing it is not the fact that they have Scarlett Johansson cast. That is the least of the problems. The biggest problem facing this is the people working on this. That's something a lot of people don't look at. When it comes to these movies, honestly, when you strip away the race arguments, which we'll do for a little bit, the movies are dependent on the people who are helming it. The director, the screenwriters, the producers, those guys making it. Look at what they've done before. Look at what they're saying about their movie. The guy helming this worked on Snow White and the Huntsman. Okay? It's being produced by Avi Arad. Okay? And when these people come out here and cast Scarlett Johansson in a role that should have been an Asian person and tried CGIing the actors to make them look more Asian, those are two big warning signs that this isn't in good hands. It just isn't. So when you strip away the race, and when you strip away the whole, oh, you got to give them a chance, like you hear that all every now and then, give them a chance, you have all the right to be worried. Okay? All the right in the world, especially anything that has Avi Arad attached to it. No, keep that man away from everything, please. Seriously, we got to take him back. Now there is something else that I want to look at. Straying away from marketability for a little bit. We'll get back to that very soon. I want to look at the individuals out there who like to say that you need to have a certain type of individual to adapt this source material. And by that, they're not talking about people who have merit. Like you're looking at their resume of work. No, you're looking at their skin color, right? You need an Asian person to adapt this story. Why? Why do you need an Asian man to adapt Ghost in the Shell? Why does he have to be Asian? Why can't he be black? Why can't he be white? Why can't he be, I don't know, anybody? Is it because it's an Asian story? That's BS. Because you're implying that you have to be Asian to appreciate the story then. Because you have to have an Asian mindset to understand this and digest it. That is not true. I would not be a fan of any anime then, because with that logic, it's produced with a Asian mindset. And it doesn't hold water in directing as well. Look at Dragon Ball Evolution. That was helmed by an Asian man who grew up outside the United States. And y'all already know how that movie turned out. It doesn't matter who's helming it in terms of their ethnicity. It comes down to their understanding of the story and how to properly adapt it into another medium. That's what matters more than anything. You don't need to have a black person direct a black comic book character just because they want to show the plight of the black person in America. That's something else that really pissed me off. The guy who's doing Black Panther. He directed Creed. I loved Creed. But when you come out here and say that you need a black person to direct Black Panther because only a black person can understand the plight of a black man in America, hang on a second. I'm pretty sure T'Challa is an African prince. Africa's not in America. Thank God Kevin Feige is overseeing all these movies. Thank God. Anyways, that's besides the point. Let's move back into the marketability aspect and let's talk about something that can actually be proven, like actual proven racism in the industry. And it's something you guys really wouldn't expect, but taking it back to 2014, you guys might recall the Sony hack that happened with the Interview movie. There were emails that were leaked from Sony executives. We learned a lot of things in regards to the Spider-Man reboot. We learned things in regards to Ghostbusters. We also learned something in regards to Denzel Washington's movie, The Equalizer. Sony executives were scared about that performance overseas. Not because of the movie, but because of the lead role. Now, why would they be scared about the lead role? Denzel Washington is a household name. Everybody loves Denzel, right? They were scared because he was a black man leading this movie. They were scared of how it's going to perform in certain territories. If you ever wanted to bring up a person's race when it comes to certain things, this would be it. Because certain territories are less likely to see a certain movie because of an actor's ethnicity. Okay? That's just the way it is. And you shouldn't be pointing the fingers at Hollywood for that. You should be pointing them to those countries out there who like to lecture us about racism, yet when stuff like this happens, nobody points it out. But again, it all goes back to money at the end of the day. Hollywood is so invested in these foreign markets. Look at Transformers Age of Extinction. That movie didn't do well in the United States. In North America in general, it just really didn't. Sure, it might look like a lot, but nothing compared to the foreign box offices. Because foreign box offices are so heavily important for these movies. That is why we're getting an Avatar sequel, and a sequel to that sequel, and a sequel to that sequel to that sequel to that sequel that'll come out in 2047. Kingdom Hearts 3 is probably going to be the first thing to come out before Avatar 2. Those markets are so important to these companies because they make a lot of money. And in some cases, certain actors are more bankable overseas than others. And unfortunately, some of them have to do with race. Like, that's something I think we all can agree on is pretty messed up. But we got to point the finger at those guys because they're the ones. Now, maybe someone will say that, well, it's probably because they're not real well known over there in those countries. Yeah, you can make that argument, sure. But again, you can also make the argument from these executives' point of view as well. That because he's black and comparing it to all the lead movies with a black actor and how they've performed overseas, there's reason and logic in that point too. So again, it's not a black and white issue. It's not just simply, oh, Hollywood is racist and the system is racist, or it's not just the fact that, we got to get the best actor for the role. It's just so complicated. So I'm going to end off this video like this. I don't support this casting whatsoever, but it's not because Hollywood is whitewashing and I want to fight against the system. I'm against it because of what it represents. Hollywood taking advantage of the fact that they secured this source material and they're going to bastardize it for the sake of corporate greed. That's why I'm against this, because of what it represents. It tells something to all these other studios. Why do you think Transformers gets away with the stuff that it does? Because it makes money. Hollywood doesn't care about reviews. They don't care if you hated the movie. They just care that you sat in those seats and made them money. What we really got to start looking at more than anything is these source materials, what can and what can't be changed. And we got to start, if we're going to be fighting things, we have to fight the things that actually matter and not just throw this blanket, this cloak of invisibility and just point to it as our fail-safe answer. That's not getting us anywhere, you guys. It really is. And I think deep down, everybody understands that. The only way to combat racism is to actually pinpoint on it, hone on it, and break it apart. Not to just point the fingers when we don't get our way because we don't see something like that. Remember, at the end of the day, it's not the race of the certain actor that matters. It's what they bring to the table in this character, truly embody and living, breathing in this character and representing the values that this character stood for. Provided that they don't make any bullshit changes to the story. That's the most important part more than anything. Ladies and gentlemen, if you made it through all the way to the end of this 22-minute video, let me know down below in the comment section. My name is NGS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.